Hey everybody, Donkey Storm here, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be reviewing the newly released Diablo 2 Resurrected. So we're going to take a look at this game and decide if it's worth your money or not. So to give you guys a little bit of background about where I'm coming from, I started playing Blizzard games back when StarCraft Brood War was released. And I did play the original Diablo 2 back in the day. Put quite a bit of hours into that game, although I wouldn't say I was a super hardcore player. But I definitely enjoyed it. I was definitely a fan. However, approaching this game, I was a little bit pessimistic because of Blizzard's last remaster, which was Warcraft 3 Reforged. And if you're not up to speed on that one, it was a huge disappointment. As a longtime fan of that game, I was extremely disappointed in that release. It basically gutted the entire original game and gave me a little bit of a pessimistic outlook toward Diablo 2 Resurrected. In fact, because of some of the news that came out a while back about Warcraft 3 Reforged, I think a developer came out and said they were forced to take pre-orders when they knew the game wasn't ready. I decided not to pre-order Diablo 2 Resurrected, which is pretty unusual for me. I usually pre-order every Blizzard release, but after hearing that news, I decided I was going to just kind of go into wait-and-see mode. So after hearing from some friends that they were really enjoying the game, I decided to give Diablo 2 Resurrected a chance. So in this video, we'll go over things like the remastered graphics, the gameplay, the integration into the Battle.net system, and how the online play has been updated. So let's get right into it. So let's start off by talking about the graphics, since that's going to be obviously the most important thing when we talk about a remastered game. When I first logged into Diablo 2 Resurrected, my initial thought was, oh, this is Diablo 2. It looks just like it always did. Then I learned about this feature where you can press the G button and play with the old graphics settings. So it does indeed look very different from the original Diablo 2. But I think the reason that I made that connection is just that the graphics hold true so well to the original game. They're an update, but they didn't really change anything. Diablo 2 still has the same dark, kind of satanic, bloody feel that it always did. It's been updated, but it hasn't been changed, which I think is the perfect way to handle a remaster. All of the environments look really good. They're just super detailed versions of the original. So we can go to some of the popular spots from back when I used to play this game in middle school, and like just Act 4, like this, this whole region just so reminds me of, how things used to look. It's just really clean, smooth, so much detail in the graphics. I love that you can zoom in now. Okay, I guess you could zoom in before, but I mean, it just really gives you an idea of how detailed and how true to the original they kept the graphics. So I'm really happy with the graphics. I love the style. Nothing feels different. Nothing feels changed. Everything feels like just an updated version of the original, which is exactly what you would hope for out of a remaster of a classic game. So graphics get a very high mark from me. Now, when we talk about the online play, this was something that worried me a little bit, because in Warcraft 3 Reforged, the online play was really what got gutted from the original. The ranked mode got removed. Everybody's stats and all that stuff was basically trash canned. And I was a little bit worried about how they would handle Diablo 2's online mode. So if we head into the online interface here, Diablo 2 is not a game with a lot of fancy game modes or anything. You pretty much can play a public game with other random people. You can play with your friends. You can play by yourself. You could play hardcore or you could play regular, but that's about it. And all that stuff is here. Now, the one thing that's missing currently, upon release after about a week or so, is the ladder. Now, I think it's pretty common for games to not have a ladder upon release. It seems like every game that I get doesn't have the ladder when it's released, and so I'll give them a pass on that for now. I do think that you're not going to want to wait too long for that ladder to get started, because after the novelty of the remaster wears off, the thing that's going to keep people playing is that element of competitiveness and trying to keep up or keep ahead of the curve of other people. So I hope this ladder does come soon. One thing I was really excited to see, actually, was this interface with all the other players and their characters down here on the bottom. So I remember when Diablo 2 was originally released, and previously all the BattleNet games were just your chat box, and over on the right you had your name and your profile, nothing fancy. And I always thought it was so cool that when Diablo 2 came out, you could actually see everybody's character, like what kind of gear were they wearing, what class were they playing. And I'm really glad they kept that, even though maybe here in 2021 it feels a little bit cheesy looking. I'm so glad they didn't change it, because I think it's really cool, and it's a nice nod to the original game. So as far as online issues, I know on release day or a few days after, there were some issues with disconnections and the game dropping out and crashing. It seems like all that stuff is fixed now. I haven't seen a crash or a disconnect in several days, and I've been putting a pretty good amount of hours into this game, so I'm happy with the online mode. I think, again, they maybe learned from their mistakes with Warcraft 3 Reforged. They didn't try to reinvent the wheel here. They didn't take anything away. They just basically kept it as it is. Integrated it with the current BattleNet system, so you will see people playing, Diablo 2 on your friends list, and people playing WoW, and people playing whatever other games they might have on BattleNet. And then finally, let's talk a little bit about the gameplay itself. Just pop into a normal game here. So one thing that stood out to me about this game upon playing it for the first time in probably 15 years was the difficulty aspect of it, and the unforgiving nature. I think is a little bit out of the norm of what we're used to in modern games. So when you start out in Diablo 2, you feel kind of weak, you feel kind of slow, you feel kind of awkward, and then as you level up, things are a little bit tough in that kind of early mid-game where your build is still rounding out. If you don't spend your points correctly, if you don't, respec properly and eventually build towards an actual endgame build, you're really going to struggle. But it's also extremely rewarding, because as your talent build rounds out, as you can see here, I'm being really original and playing a Hammerden. But as your build starts to round out, you can just feel the power of your character building, and it's really rewarding. So, things that were tough start to get easier. You feel stronger. The game feels more fluid. You're faster. You're killing things faster. You're getting loot faster. You're getting gear upgrades. And you really feel the power of every gear upgrade and talent point and stat that you add in a way that I feel like in many games lately you don't feel as much, or it's kind of given to you a little bit more easily. Diablo 2 is a little bit more forgiving. It's a little bit harder. If you're playing this game for the first time, you're probably going to die a little bit, but it feels worth it in the end when your character starts to get stronger and you really start to play that build that you've been working towards. So if you're just starting out with Diablo 2, I definitely recommend that you look up a build guide to kind of get you in the right direction, unless you're one of those people that just insists upon learning everything for yourself. So anyway, obviously what I'm showing you here is the PC version. I also want to shout out the Switch version, which I ended up purchasing as well. It's pretty cool because while the game is not cross-play, it is cross-platform. So I can play my Paladin here on Switch. I can play with other Switch players, and then whatever, progress I make, gear I get, levels I obtain, will be reflected in my PC game, and I can play the same character on PC with my PC playing friends, which is pretty cool. So obviously, I bought the game twice to be able to do that, but I've really enjoyed it, and it felt worth it to me. And also a shout out to the Switch version, and I'm assuming other console versions as well, with a little bit of an updated UI. So you can see here in the PC version of the game, my abilities are bound to either right click or left click. But on the console version, you can bind abilities to pretty much every button, which makes it play a little bit more like Diablo 3, and it makes switching from spells. So on PC, if I want to, for example, change my aura here from Vigor to Concentration, I have to press F3 or F4. And that's pretty easy for a Paladin because I don't have to left click or anything. But, if I want to use something like, let's say, charge. Yeah, charge. So I have that for F2. I have to press F2, left click, F4 back to the aura I want. Whereas on Switch, I could have, my aura on right trigger and my charge on A, and there's no need to switch back and forth. I just press whichever button, which is a nice little quality of life update that I kind of wish they would have brought over to PC, but I think their goal in this remaster was to remain true to the original, and they've definitely done that, and mostly for the better. So I would highly recommend this game to players of the original that feel like dipping back into Diablo 2. If you've never played it before, but you enjoy action RPGs like Diablo 3, Path of Exile, I'd highly recommend it, as this is sort of one of the great ancestors of the action RPG genre. So anyway, that's my review of Diablo 2 Resurrected, excuse me. I think it's really good. I think it's worth the money. I'd recommend it. And if you guys enjoyed this video, if you agree with me or maybe disagree with me, feel like I left something out, please leave that in the comment section. And also, if you want to see any content outside of WoW like this, or maybe more Diablo 2 Resurrected content for kind of off day sort of stuff, let me know. I'm thinking about giving that a try. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.